Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start today expressing a deep sense of gratitude and a deep sense of pride to my fellow Minnesotans. Over the past 6 weeks, the state of Minnesota and the people of this great state have endured an unprecedented federal invasion in all aspects of life. Our sense of normalcy was shook to the core. The trauma that's been inflicted, certainly across an immigrant community, but to every single Minnesotan, is unlike anything we've witnessed. We've been through challenges, we've been through natural disasters, we've been through COVID, but this is something that I don't think any state has ever experienced. And through that entire time, the dignity, the compassion, the love, the care, and the absolute determination to do what was right never wavered amongst Minnesotans, whether it was standing in minus 40 degrees temperatures or it was delivering food to a family that simply wanted to feed their children. Minnesotans never wavered. And for that, I will be forever grateful. I think it's probably safe to say the rest of the country will be forever grateful, because they showed what it means to stand up for what's right, to stand up for the true principles of this country, to stand with the Constitution, and to stand with human decency. And so I want to note that the announcement today by Mr. Homan, we are cautiously optimistic, as we've said, and that this surge of untrained, aggressive federal agents are going to leave Minnesota. And I guess they'll go wherever they're going to go. But the fact of the matter is, they left us with deep damage, generational trauma. They left us with economic ruin in some cases. They left us with many unanswered questions. Where are our children? Where and what is the process of the investigations into those that were responsible for the deaths of Renee and Alex? So while the federal government may move on to whatever next thing they want to do, the state of Minnesota and our administration is unwaveringly focused on the recovery of what they did. And there will be many steps in this process, many answers that we still need to get and will pursue. But as we started earlier this week, one of the first things we can do and what we're focusing on today is what can we start doing on the economic recovery, the damage that has been done to our economy, specifically to small business owners, and even more specifically to immigrant small business owners, which for every other administration and for most of our history is the epitome of the American dream. Come to this country with nothing and build something to be proud of, build something that creates jobs, build something that creates this incredible diversity and a food scene across this state that is second to none, to entrepreneurship, to the work that they've done. Meeting a few weeks ago down at the Hmong market, and a gentleman who came here and got a food stall, and 3 of his children are now medical doctors that went through American universities to become medical doctors to help make this state the best for health care. Those are stories we should be celebrating, not dangerous police chases through peaceful neighborhoods, not little boys in little backpacks being hauled away, and not mourning of parents and family for American and Minnesota citizens being killed on the streets. So, Minnesota, on behalf of not just this state but the country, thank you. That same energy now needs to be directed towards recovery, to finding ways that people have done during these challenging months to go forward. So I want to say this damage is still being assessed, but we do know, and you're going to hear from some folks, you're going to hear from Henry, you'll hear from Commissioner Verlick about where we're at on the front end of this, and we're going to be proposing a a reinstitution of our small business emergency fund. It's what we used very successfully during COVID in the recovery, and the economic recovery that we saw in Minnesota that outpaced most of the rest of the country. We're going to be proposing a first-time $10 million one-time targeted loans, forgivable loans, that we know, and I want to be very clear, is a very small piece of this, but what I am going to challenge as we get ready to start here in a few days, the legislative session, this legislative session needs to be about recovery of the damage that's been done to us. I am also asking our team, and I'm going to make appeals to our federal delegation, the federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. There's going to be accountability on the things that happened, but one of the things is the incredible and immense costs that were borne by the people of this state. The federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it. So we're going to be asking the federal delegation to be investing and doing the things necessary. We have been in contact with federal leadership as a negotiation is happening right now on DHS funding and all of the things that we have an expectation, whether it be the investigations, whether it be going forward, no masks, because this, I got to tell you, one of the things, and I'm in contact with a lot of my colleagues, both at the federal level with the Senate and the House, but especially governors. I don't want these folks showing up somewhere else and doing this. So the changes that need to be made, the investments that need to come back, they need to show, they being the federal government and they being this administration, they need to do more. But I'm not going to hold my breath that the federal government's going to do the right thing. What I am going to do is I'm going to bet on the people of this state. And when we come into this legislative session, an expectation is this should be a bipartisan effort to protect these businesses, to protect what we have in Minnesota, to make changes here to improve this state. That should be very easy. And I think we've seen just some of the data surrounding this. There's very few things in this state that are more unpopular than what just happened to us, and there's few things that are more popular than recovery and supporting small businesses. So Minnesota, I know you've been through a lot. I know that we're still in the deep part of winter, but it's going to be 40 today here. The sun's going to be shining, probably a pretty good metaphor for spring is out there, summer over the horizon, but it's going to take a lot of work. So the expectation is of myself and our administration and the elected leaders, we get busy in this legislative session and start repairing the damage from this, start putting in safeguards that it doesn't happen again. And I think using the momentum that we have to celebrate, Minnesota's reputation has been pretty well solidified out there of caring, gritty people who back down to nothing and do the right thing for their neighbors. And I think now we continue that same attitude into this legislative session and into this recovery to help the folks standing behind me and thousands of others to get back what they do best, creating jobs, creating opportunities, creating a good life, being able to see their children go off to school and then celebrate by, watching a baseball game when things start up here this spring. We're not asking that much, but there's going to be work to do. You've got our pledge that we will do everything possible to make that happen, and today is a very small first step, but it is a concrete step that can make a difference. With that, I'm going to turn to Deed Commissioner Matt Verilek to talk a little bit about how we expect this program to work, and then we'll hear from Henry as a spokesperson for what the impact has been of a small business and what this can do to help. Commissioner Verilek.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Governor. And I would echo, first of all, the Governor's sense of Minnesota pride right now for all that we've been through and the way we have stood up, and also the optimism about the fact that we now may be at a transition point in this process, if indeed the federal presence will be winding down. But I want to emphasize what he said, that the economic impacts will be very long-lasting. It was maybe a couple of weeks ago or so that we stood up with some of these very same small business owners and highlighted there the massive negative economic impact that is resulting from the fact that a lot of workers don't feel comfortable showing up, a lot of customers don't feel comfortable showing up, and so we're seeing massive reductions in that foot traffic, massive reductions in revenue, et cetera. And so that's why it is so important, first of all, that the Governor launched the Shop Local campaign as part of our Shop Local Stand Together effort in this month of February, and now this additional measure of the $10 million in targeted small business partially forgivable loans, we think is another important step. And just to elaborate on that a little bit, the notion is that the loans would be 0% over 3 years. After 1 year, there would be an opportunity to seek 50% forgiveness on the basis of proving that you have had substantial impacts from the presence of the federal agents. The eligibility would be businesses with annual revenues between $200,000 and $4 million, so it's targeting small businesses, and the value of the loans between $2,500 and $25,000. And so, again, to acknowledge the point that the governor made, we know that the economic harms are far in excess of that, but this helps, we believe, alongside the other things that we've been doing and that others have been doing. Also would note that we're working with some private sector partners to seek reduction or even elimination of some of the fees that private sector service providers provide to small businesses. Not sure, if they will take us up on that, but that's one other effort we're doing. And we again applaud folks like the Minneapolis Foundation, Latino Economic Development Center, and others who have stood up private sector funds for small business relief, and in many cases those have been funded by some of our larger businesses in Minnesota, so an example of mutual support. All of those things we hope at least mitigate some of the harm that's been done here. And to give you an example of that harm, I mean, number one, last night I was out at a great place, Sabores Fresh Market in St. Paul, a grocery store that has a restaurant in the back. I had some great pupusas, but heard heartbreaking stories once again of what massive impact there has been. And likewise, we are going to hear that story from Henry, who runs a supermercado in St. Paul as well. So Henry, if you would please join us and share your story.
Thank you. Okay. I want to say thank you for everyone here. Thank you for the Governor Walz and the Commissioner Berling. I apologize for my accent. I want to speak in Spanish, but I have to speak English today. Spanish is my first language. I came from Colombia 23 years ago, looking for American dream. Many people, many immigrants from different countries came to America looking for the same thing, and we are working hard. And now it's difficult times for many families, for us, for many businesses, but we're still working hard every day, no matter what happens. We believe in our governor, we believe in the law, we believe in America. We're working for the dream. I want to read something that I wrote last night. Okay, my name is Henry Garnica. I own a Centromex supermarket at the East St. Paul, along with the partnership distribution company that serve other small businesses in the Midwest. Centromex is a neighborhood corner store with open door to welcome all people. It is a space where everyone feels comfortable to be in. Since federal ICE activity increased late last year, everything has changed. On December 11, my store was targeted. We were lucky. Nobody was detained, but the impact caused for a lot of damage for small businesses, including my business. Sales down in many cases between 30 or 40%. It's a lot, and the recovery for that takes a long time and more energy. We had to do a big job together. My customers are afraid to go in shopping. You have to adjust the operation. We had to lock the door. It's no good because we are in America. We never expected that. We are worried about how the things are coming, but we hear from our governor that the things change soon. Will be a good environment for everybody, for the whole communities, not only for immigrants, not only for Latinos, not only for Afro-Americans, it's for the whole community, for the whole Minnesotans. I'm sorry, through my distribution company, I see the impact across the other small businesses too. The businesses are part of the fabric of our neighborhood and our vibrant economy in Minnesota. I attended a large Did Shop Small Stand Together campaign, and the support from the community since there has meant a lot. This is a new campaign that everybody knows. I can see every day in my business many new customers, Americans, 100%, and they are going to buy stuff in my store. I feel blessed. I think it was a good initiative from the governor, local governor. I have many friends in the other stores, and they see the same thing every day. It's a big help. I appreciate that. Thank you for the initiative. It's a good blessing. It's a good thing for all small businesses. But sales dropped like they have. Goodwill alone can cover rent or payroll. Small businesses don't have a safety net. The proposed 10 million forgiveness loan package could be give a business like me breathing room to keep employees, to keep the staff, to keep paying the payroll, to keep restocking the shelf. But we need more. I think we're expecting at least 3 or 4 or maybe 6 months for recover the business again, because we are in a really tough situation. With the community support and smart economic relief, we can move forward. Finally, I want to say I am grateful for leaders who are standing with the small businesses during this difficult time. I am also incredibly thankful for the community members and volunteers who show up to help every day, no matter the weather. Our governor says people working below zero, 20 to live below zero, and many volunteers without anything, expecting to get any money. They support in the small business, they support in the communities, not only in the East St. Paul. I understand it's in the whole Minnesota state. It's why I feel really proud living in Minnesota. My respect for the all volunteers, my respect for the all Minnesotan people, for the governor, for the police department, for everybody. We feel safe, but we need to feel the freedom again. This is a thing that I had to keep it every day. Almost I put it on my pillow, make sure don't forget it for the next day. And the other thing I had to keep on my pocket is my ID. But hopefully we don't have to do this more. Finally, no matter the weather, the volunteers working strong with the warmer hearts, and they are a good example, the peace, love, and big community in Minnesota with the entire community. Thank you, Governor Walz. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, and thank you for everybody, and God bless the all volunteers. God bless Minnesota. God bless all Minnesotans and all the small businesses, because we need to work hard and make the Minnesota hard, strong, and big state. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Grateful. Appreciate it. Well, thank you, Henry. And to Henry, and I want to speak directly to Minnesota's immigrant community, by extension, America's immigrant community. We see you, we hear you, we value everything that you bring. We understand here in Minnesota that there is no Minnesota without our immigrant community. And it was the wave of Norwegian and German immigrants a century ago, Hmong immigrants half a century ago, Somali, Afghan, Iraqi, Syrian, 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 Afg East African, no matter where you come from, we believe in those words. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be breathe free. This is a place you can breathe free. And my message to you is, the majority of Minnesotans and Americans stand on your side. They stand on the side that immigration is the core of who we are and that human decency. So as we go on this long road to recovery, it's going to be hard for many of you to get back the trust, to be able to go out again without fear you're going to be asked for your papers, or to be singled out because of how you look. We in here in Minnesota have always made that clear, and I will attest that's why we were the target of this, because we are a successful multiracial, multicultural state that has one of the highest standards of living, that values our people and understands the people standing behind us are making that happen. So it's going to be a long road, but I think you saw, and I'll say it again, Minnesotans are decent, caring, loving neighbors, and they're also some of the toughest damn people you'll ever find, and we're in this as long as it takes. With that, we'll take some questions.
Governor, how did this come together? You've been in talks quite a lot with Border Czar Homan. Can you walk us through that?
We have been communicating a lot, and I just want to note the way the state of Minnesota is addressing immigration is exactly the same today as it was 3 weeks ago, or 3 months ago, or 3 years ago. We've said that we are more than willing, and we understand it's our responsibility, and we support humane, rule of law immigration reform. It's why I've advocated as a member of Congress and as a governor that we need to have reforms that allow a path to citizenship for the folks we want here and the ability to do targeted enforcement for those who shouldn't be here. So we continue to express that. We continue to work. I think probably what changed was when Tom Homan came here, I could get a conversation with someone. Not a single interaction, Kristi Noem, Bavino, or any of the rest of them, and an arrogance that it didn't matter. And I think, as I said again, it became very clear to the administration, especially after the murders of Renee and Alex, and the horrific actions of these agents on the ground, that an issue the president saw himself as being strong, certainly politically, has eroded into a albatross around their neck. And so I think, in my take was, they knew they needed to get out of here, but in very Trumpian fashion, they needed to save face. So we've been talking, and I will say this. Tom Homan said today that he and I disagree on a lot of things. That is probably an understatement. But as I said when he first came in, and first thing he did was call me when he landed and then meet the next morning, is that at least there was a consistency to what he said, and he followed through with it. So we got indications that this is where they were headed. And again, I think probably we would be back to that pre-surge number in the very near future. Yes, ma'am.
Does this announcement change the way you're thinking about DHS funding and whether they should receive funding going forward?
No, and I just want to be, this is a really kind of tricky thing with this administration, because, you know, they change their mind, or if they think, you know, the president thinks he's not getting the upper hand. I'm certainly not going to spike the football, but you're not going to hear me express any gratitude for the people who caused this unnecessary, unwarranted, and in many cases unconstitutional assault on our state. And my expectation is we still need to have those investigations. And I'm telling you, in this economic crisis they created, all of these cabinet agents came in here to try and please the president by attacking Minnesota. So we have a $2 billion cut from Dr. Oz in our DHS programs that are rural hospitals and things. So it doesn't change it at all. And I think the lessons learned, I'm more than happy to help Congress say some things, is in America, you cannot expect that the people are going to be okay with masked, unidentified people running you off the road and coming to your vehicle at gunpoint like we saw in St. Peter, Minnesota. So if ICE which Tom Homan's right about this. They have a mission. Now, I don't know if this iteration of ICE can last, but the idea of immigration reform and border control, we all agree with that. What we disagree with is that what happened in Minnesota had anything to do with that. It did not. So I hope, and I would encourage, and we have been contacting with Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer to hold the line till you get the at least minimum reforms necessary in this rogue agency to get something done. So yes.
This still doesn't totally answer the question on everyone's mind, which is when are these ICE agents leaving? We obviously know that some of them will stay and sort of go back to business as usual, be pre-positioned around the state, but
Mr. Homan said this week and early next week. I talked to Mr. Homan after his press conference, and he assured me that they are going, all the surge is going, and they're going immediately. So as soon as they can pack their stuff, book a plane, move on. I would volunteer. We will help you get to the airport. We will clear the roads to get you to the airport. I will come over and pack your damn bags if that's what it takes. But I think it does answer the question. And again, this is a trust but verify. I am skeptically optimistic. I have no reason to not believe that when Tom Homan said they will be gone almost immediately. So it'd be my expectation, I think, certainly by the middle of next week, this is back to the 150. So yeah. Yeah. I think, and I'm trying to look, I don't know all the details because it's not what a executive branch should do to interfere with an independent judicial branch. And so as far as the BCA goes, they do what they need to do, and it was my understanding we were very close to a joint agreement, and then at least what we're hearing is that was pulled back, and this is somewhat a speculation, but it's how I'm viewing it, just to be candid with all of you, that the federal government pulled back because there was a leak before they could announce it. So I think we all have to be really careful. This is like a fourth grade game of who gets last hit type of thing. This administration always has to get the last word. This administration always has to be viewed that they won. And in this case, I think they understand they have got to do a joint investigation. So it is my expectations we will get a joint investigation. I would hope that this surge leaving and at least that piece being off, because that's one of the three demands that we will have to see here. This was getting rid of the surge, independent investigation, and then stop the attack on our state government agencies. So as I know right now is we were very close. I think obviously there's a contingent inside the FBI and the federal government that understands the only way you do these is through a joint investigation. And it's very clear, and again, if anybody in the administration or outside of Minnesota thinks because this surge that they're leaving, that somehow everything's okay and we've forgotten about this, the folks who are out there asking for this are going to turn their attention to these other things now. And so my hope is, and it could go a long ways, is we get an announcement in the the near term. Again, we're only asking for what's always been done. We're only asking for the right thing, and we're only asking for what is the core of who we are. Justice needs to be served, and I don't know. I do not know. We saw yesterday the federal government's putting a ton of effort into trying to indict 6 members of Congress, the House and Senate, and a grand jury said, are you out of your minds, and threw those out. So what we need what's left of a decimated U.S. Attorney's Office here to get back to the work of stopping drug trafficking, stopping crime that's there, helping us on fraud investigations, and then getting us this investigation. So nothing further yet, but I think the framework is in place, and it's just a matter of them feeling like they have an upper hand to announce it, and I hope that would happen soon. Yeah. Go ahead. Nothing has changed. The final agreement is that Minnesota would continue to do what we do, which is law enforcement, honor, those things, and that we would do what has always been expected and has done for decades here, is if there's someone who is in a Minnesota prison and there is an ICE asking us to hold them. Once their sentence is served, we notify ICE and turn them over. And that has, in every single case, you've done the investigative work, that's what's happened. So nothing has been changed. They continued to ask me. One of their demands is that I ask people to be peaceful in their protesting. That's an easy thing for me to do because that's what I said. But I'm not going to ask them to not be on the streets. I'm not going to ask them to give up their constitutional, their First Amendment rights, their Second Amendment rights, their Fourth Amendment rights, and for the state, the 10th Amendment rights. So what I've been telling you is this is exactly what we've been doing. And when I went to Congress 2 months ago and testified for 8 hours, as they incorrectly said Minnesota is not adhering to this, I testified for 8 hours. Nothing came out of that, and yet they came here. So I think to tell people, we're just going to follow the law. And when it comes to this, no one's disagreeing that you shouldn't have immigration enforcement. But it should be with due process, and everybody gets that. And it certainly should be done humanely. And you certainly, if you're truly going to focus on the worst of the worst, why are you going after our neighbors who are in the system, following the law, trying to reach naturalization? That doesn't make any sense. So Minnesota's doing what we did, but I'll tell you what, it steeled our resolve of how much we're going to protect our immigrant community. It steeled our resolve that we will do what we should do, they should do their job, and it's become very apparent to the people of America that this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to go about it. This doesn't make us any safer. And so with that, yeah, go ahead.
Any updates in progress on the flow of federal dollars to state agencies, state programs, that sort of thing?
No, not. Thank you for the question. And this question about the flow of federal dollars, and and you saw this. I think you saw it yesterday in the hearing on Capitol Hill on the Epstein files. Each of these agency heads, and I mean that is certainly troubling in that about the non-independence of the branch of the AG's office, law enforcement. But each of these cabinet secretaries wanted to please their boss so much, they just came to Minnesota and piled things onto us, piled in data requests, piled in letters, threatened to withhold money, threatened to do all of this. Those are the things that are doing immense damage at a time when we're going to need that, and I remind people of this. Minnesota contributes more than we get from the federal government. When it came time to look at things like a scale on how solid and lack of corruption in state government, Minnesota ranks in the top 5 best states. All of the things about running things and doing it right, we follow the law, we do it right, we provide more federal dollars, and in my opinion, this unallotment around what Congress has appropriated and what the law says Minnesota should get, the president is arbitrarily, and his cabinet secretaries are arbitrarily holding that money. So back to this first question to end on, this about what DHS reform should do. We are pushing our congressional allies, and I would think the Republicans in this, before any deal is made with DHS funding, all of them need to quit this assault of, and again, I will use the president's word, retribution against Minnesota. Not because we have more undocumented people, not because of any reason other than he decided that this is a state they would try and make an example of. And look, I'm treading a pretty fine line here. He picked the wrong state to make an example of. And that is where things set today. So we'll see over the next few days. We are in a trust but verify phase. My word to Minnesota is, again, we're certainly not going to celebrate something that should have never happened, but I will say this. Please keep, at this point in time, stay hyper vigilant. I'm afraid over these next few days with some of these folks leaving that the potential for an incident like we saw up here near the cathedral with this chase yesterday, what we don't need is some horrific thing happening on the way out. But I will say, as we started on this in the hours after the murder of Renee, is express your constitutional rights, stand up for your neighbors, speak out when you need to speak out, do so peacefully, because as I said then, and every one of you proved the fact is, at the end of the day, that will win out. That is the way a democracy should function, and it seemed like a long ways from that January day that we would get to a point where they would say, we're leaving, but today is about a lot of destruction, over those weeks. A lot of damage. A lot of trust has been eroded. A lot, as I said, we've got children that a core memory for them will be their classmate being taken away. And that will stick with them the rest of their lives. And my hope is what sticks with them is human decency wins out, rule of law matters, that arc of the moral universe is bending towards justice, and we are under no illusions that it will magically happen itself. All of what we're talking about today was put onto Minnesota, and it was Minnesota citizens, I'll say it again, nameless, faceless folks who were endured whatever it took to make a difference. So our work is beginning here. We'll do the recovery, encouraging the legislative leaders to get ready for a recovery session. And my certainly on this is back these proposals and let's get this money to these businesses and get back to normal. Thanks, folks.